I'll be recapping all the Saw movies, getting you ready for Saw 10. Now let's go. In Saw 1, a blue light with a key falls into the drains when Adam and Lawrence wakes up in a room chained to the wall. Between them is a guy lying on the ground with a self-inflicted gun wound to the head. In one hand, a gun, the other, tape recorder. They find envelopes in their pockets with keys and tape, but Gordon's envelope has a bullet. Adam manages to reach the tape recorder in the dead guy's hand. When Gordon tosses over his tape, they find out that the aim of Gordon's game is to kill Adam or his family will die. They listen closely to hear a faint whisper that says they need to follow their heart, to which they grab a bag out of the toilet to find saws, too weak to cut the chains, but Gordon realizes that they want them to cut through their own leg, giving them a flashback when Detective Stephen Singh, David Tapp and Allison Carey find a body strung up in wires. Paul was prone to cutting himself, so Jigsaw helped him. He had a piece of flesh missing in the shape of a puzzle piece, giving the killer its name. They find a pen that belonged to Gordon, a doctor. When they bring him in, they find that he had an alibi at the time. They listened over to follow a survivor of the Jigsaw games, Amanda. Her task was to survive a reverse bear trap. She had to dig through a person's live body to find the key. Unlocking it, she won, to which Billy the puppet came out to celebrate with her. In the cell, they begin to reminisce the photos of Gordon's family, and he tosses over his wallet so Adam can see. He finds a scary picture of Gordon's family and a note on the back that he doesn't reveal to Gordon. Unbeknownst to them, David Tapp had been crazily obsessing with Gordon, staying long nights to stake out his house. Finally, he reveals the note that makes them turn off the light so they can find the X. When he breaks the wall, he finds a box. In it, a phone. He gets called by Zapp, his assistant and the mastermind holding his family hostage, revealing that the time has come to the end and he hasn't killed Adam yet. He goes into the room to finish off the family and calls Gordon to boast about it, and they fight back, getting loose while he wasn't looking. While this was happening, David overheard the gunshots and rushed over to help. In a shootout, the family escaped. Zapp runs off, going to finish off Gordon and Adam. All Gordon heard was gunshots over the phone. In order to escape and save them now, he saws off his leg. He crawls over and grabs the gun and loads the bullet. He then shoots Adam. Meanwhile, Tapp chases Zapp into the tunnels, pressing him against the wall, but he manages to escape by killing him and shooting him in the chest. When Zapp arrives, he tells Gordon it's too late and he goes to shoot him, but Adam knocks him over and kills him with a toilet tank lid. Gordon offers him some comfort and tells him he has to go get help while he crawls off. Searching through Zapp's body, he finds a tape recorder, revealing that Zapp was only a pawn in the game. He was poisoned and forced to kidnap the family and kill them if Gordon had failed. He sits in astonishment, realizing what just had happened. The dead body wakes up, revealing the Jigsaw killer mastermind, John Kramer, saying that he could have escaped with the blue light key in the bathtub. He turns off the lights and gives the best ending ever.
Game over.
New detective Eric Matthews goes to the station to pick up his little brother Daniel because he was jailed for pickpocketing people. He goes onto the scene with Allison Carey and finds a puzzle piece cut out. Finding that it is from Wilson Steel and there is an abandoned factory nearby, they take a SWAT team to go raid the place. Entering it, they capture Jigsaw and cuff him there, but they can't leave yet because they need to play another game. People are trapped in a room. Among them are Daniel. In 2 hours, the poison in Daniel's blood will be very messy. Daniel and the 7 others are in the room, one of which is Amanda from the first Saw. She finds a tape recorder behind some bricks. They listen in to find that the air they are breathing in is nerve gas, meaning they will die in 2 hours. The door opens in 3, and antidotes are laid all over the house. Xavier gets a key that warns him not to try and open the door. When he does, a contraption shoots, killing Gus instantly. The door suddenly opens and they walk past multiple rooms, getting into one with a note addressing Obi, an accomplice that helped Saul kidnap all the people. In the furnace, there are 2 antidotes, but when he reaches for them, the furnace closes and burns him alive. Meanwhile, Jigsaw explains that he cuts a piece out of people because they are missing a vital piece of them, the survival instinct, and that he got into the game life after he had survived trying to commit suicide. Now he believes everyone should have the will to live. The analytics team arrive to track where the feed is coming from. In the game, Xavier notices a number on the back of Gus's head. When Jonas stumbles in, he kills him to find his number. In another room, Laura dies from the nerve agent, and they find incriminating evidence that makes them split off from Daniel. They watch Xavier chase after Daniel, desperately trying to save his little brother. Matthews starts to beat Jigsaw to try and find the location of the place. Addison stumbles into a room. She sees an antidote and begins to grab her when her hands get stuck and she bleeds to death. Jigsaw agrees to take Matthews to the location, while the team finally finds the signal to the feed. Driving to the scene with a bloody Jigsaw, he runs through the house. Meanwhile, Amanda and Daniel open the door to the cell from the first movie. Xavier cuts the flesh behind his back to find the number he is holding, but when he approaches them, Daniel kills him with a rusty saw. The cops break into the house that they tracked on the feed, finding a system with VCRs, revealing that it was just relaying to them a recording that had happened a while back. The 8 people trapped in the house played out 2 days earlier. Matthews gets into the cell and finds a hand in the bathtub. A piggy stabs him with a syringe. The countdown reveals the safe with a Daniel breathing on O2. When Eric wakes up, he listens to a tape recording of Amanda chastising him for putting away people on false charges. She loves Jigsaw and wants to continue his legacy after he is gone. As her prodigy, she replicates his ending.
Game over.
Eric, now chained to the cell, he uses the toilet lid to smash his leg, escaping from the chain by barely sliding out. The story follows Allison. She is worried where Eric has been because he has been missing for multiple weeks. Whilst researching this case at home, she is kidnapped and put into a trap. Her key is inside a beaker of acid. She goes for it, melting a large chunk of her hand, but she gets the key and unlocks it, but the device doesn't open. It introduces the idea of the inescapable trap. She eventually dies. Lynn is a lover in Coral. In the day, she works as an assistant to a doctor, but she is eventually kidnapped and put into a game with Jigsaw. Her game is a contraption that is connected to the heart of John Kramer. If she gets too far, or if his heartbeat flatlines, she will die too. Amanda explains that she needs to keep John alive until Jeff, a guy in a crate, finishes all his Saw traps. He is there because of the anger that has consumed his life over the drunk driver that has killed his son, and the judicial system that let him go. In this, he has fallen into an addiction of drinking and neglected his daughter. To survive, he needs to be able to forgive the people. He breaks out of the box and gets into a freezing room, finding a naked lady. He finds a tape telling him that Danica was the only witness to the accident that drove off and refused to testify. He can save her by grabbing the key, but he is too slow, and after he gets it, she freezes to death. He finds the next tape with a guy chained to the bottom of a vat. The tape plays and explains that he is the judge that let the manslaughterer go with a short sentence. The only way to save Judge Holden is to incinerate the toys of Dylan's old possessions that Jeff has refused to let go of. A line of decomposing pigs come out. They get pulverized to fill up the vat. Jeff slowly goes down the stairs and incinerates the toy, grabbing the key and freeing the judge. In the lab, Lynn begins to operate on John's brain tumor. She relieves the pressure by cutting open it. This opens up a flashback of John's lover. The operation is successful and John reaches out to say that he loves Lynn, confusing her for the person in his dream. This upsets Amanda, jealous of all the attention she is getting. Amanda has a flashback of after Saw 1 when Jigsaw shut the door. Amanda came back in to kill Adam. Jeff and Judge Holden go on to their last trap, Timothy, the driver that killed his son Dylan. He is in a device called the Rake that will twist all of Timothy's limbs. The key is connected to a shotgun barrel. If he is willing to take a shot, he can save Timothy's life. After a long while, he grabs the key, but the shotgun blast kills Judge Holden, and after fumbling around for a while, he gives up, saying he forgives Timothy just as he dies to the trap. Meanwhile, John orders Amanda to free Lynn because Jeff finished all his tasks, but she has a power trip and doesn't want to let her live, flashing back to when Eric escaped the chains and found Amanda in the tunnels beating her, but she kicked his broken leg and left him there to die. Meanwhile, Jeff finds a gun and goes on into the lab where Lynn woke up at the start, but just before she can leave, Amanda shoots her in the back, revealing that Lynn was Jeff's wife. The guy at the start was the person she was having an affair with. In retaliation, he shoots her in the neck. Falling down, John explains that this game was for her. She was being tested because she kept setting up unwinnable games like in Saw 1 with the blue light key and Detective Kerry with the ribcage trap. She succumbs to her wound and bleeds out. Jeff Jeff isn't done yet though. He kills Kramer, and in return he plays a tape explaining that he has hidden away their daughter and he has to play another game to get her. With his death comes Lynn. She explodes in a shotgun blast in a scene that shows the aftermath of the shot. In a morgue, an autopsy begins on Kramer's dead body. They find a tape addressing Mark Hoffman, a new detective on the case. In a different location, two people are rigged up to a machine. One is See No Evil and the other is Say No Evil. Say No Evil spots a key on the other's back, killing him and getting it to escape. They find Kerry's body strung up. The FBI gets introduced. Special Agent Lindsay Perez and her partner Peter Strom. They believe there had to be a third accomplice because nor Amanda or John could have lifted Kerry up to the trap. Rig, a officer, is told to go home. He has been obsessing on finding Eric Matthews ever since. That night, he is kidnapped by a piggy. That same piggy is behind Hoffman. Rig wakes up to find a video playing of Eric Matthews and Hoffman, both in separate contraptions. All Rig has to do is let go. His first task is to let the lady die. Billy reiterates this, appearing on the TV, but he goes to try and save her, and the device turns on, pulling her scalp into the machine. He finds the combination to set her free, and he runs off to try to get something to help her. But when he returns, she tries to kill him, and he ends up hitting her into a mirror, knocking her out. A tape reveals that if she was freed, she would have to kill Rig, or they would put her in prison with all the evidence of her being an escort. Rig goes to leave, grabbing the two keys out of a box. One will save her life and the other will take one. He runs off to go save Matthew and Hoffman. After Eric fought Amanda, a masked figure dragged him through the tunnels. He was kept in a prison for 6 months. Another guy enters the room, setting a trap up for the door and sitting behind a row of monitors. The FBI enters Rig's apartment, finding Brenda and questioning if Rig is the accomplice or maybe Jigsaw's lover. Following Rig, he gets to a hotel where his next task is to set up the hotel desk clerk. He lures him up with a dog and holds him at gunpoint, revealing that he was an R-worder. For more proof, evidence starts playing on the TV. He is told to strap him up in the device. Rig leaves as Ivan's test begins. He ends up dying because he was too slow to blind himself. Outside, he reads a note about becoming the teacher. It flashes back to a case where a father had abused his child and the mother did nothing. He ends up assaulting Rex, the father, for it, as Hoffman pulls him off. Wanting more information, the FBI questions Jill, the ex-lover that Jigsaw had. In a flashback, Jill is 7 months pregnant and locks up the clinic at the dead of night. While John waited for her outside, a drug addict, Cecil, threatened her for a fix. On his way out, he accidentally slammed the door onto her, giving her a miscarriage. Giving up, Matthews decides to try and commit suicide, but the masked figure saves him, revealing him to be Art, Say No Evil guy, which gives him a gun and tells him to do the right thing. Meanwhile, Rig gets into a room with the abusive parents, getting a note to leave them. He follows it, ringing the alarm to alert the FBI to their location. They arrive on the scene and find the room with Billy the puppet. His face explodes on Detective Perez, sending her to the hospital, but just before she leaves, she gives Strom a key. Angry, Strom now aggressively interrogates Jill, giving a flashback of what actually happened to Cecil. After being kidnapped, he was placed in the first ever saw trap, which broke in the process, but he fell into a bed of wires. In another flashback, she finds out about this and is disgusted. He continues to work on another trap. He questions her on the Gideon, a building named after their unborn child. Rig arrives onto the scene, and Strom too. It is revealed that Strom was tailing Jeff the entire time, following Saw 3. In the warehouse, Art had a contraption on him the entire time. He can only escape once the timer hits 0, but in the meantime, Matthews shoots the door to stop Rig from running through, but he runs through and sees Art approaching him, and he shoots Art. The ice crushes Matthews. In the other location, Strom opens the door with the key and kills Jeff. Rig notices that Art is reaching for something and shoots him in the head. A tape recording plays that if Riggs would have just waited, they would have all lived, revealing that the real Jigsaw apprentice is Mark Hoffman. The pig head behind him was a costume for him to kidnap Riggs. He leaves with the classic
"Game over.
and Rig dies. He goes to lock Strom in the room with all the bodies. Seth is strapped to a device that crushes him with a swinging axe. After being locked in the vault, Strom finds an alternate way out, where he is knocked out by a piggy. He wakes up in a contraption that fills with water. Clever Strom jabs a pen in his neck so that he can breathe. Hoffman carries out Jeff and Lynn's daughter Corbett after the whole debacle and finds out that Strom is still alive. After the death of John, Jill gets a vault that isn't revealed until the next movie. Hoffman grabs Strom's phone from the evidence room. He is confused how Hoffman walked out of the building alive. Special Agent Erickson is introduced. He is saying that he is off the case. In a different location, Hoffman watches 5 people stuck in a room. Their necks are chained to a wall with a giant blade. Billy appears to tell them that they are all so selfish. The only way they can survive is to work together. They need to reach the key, and only one person can go at a time. Once one person starts trying to go, a timer starts for 60 seconds. They only have 15 minutes until a nail bomb in the room will explode. Charles is the first one to retrieve his key, then Luba and Britt, but in the end, Malik and Britt can't seem to work together, to which they go at the same time and Malik reaches his key, but the 60-second timer goes off and Ashley is pulled into the giant blade. The door opens for them and Britt makes sure to collect all the keys just in case. At the station late at night, Strom searches the case for Seth. He is the guy that murdered his wife, which was Hoffman's sister. He is caught by Erickson, but he plays it off, saying he is grabbing stuff before he takes time off. In the trap game, they find jars hanging above them containing 3 keys, of which correlate to each vent. They manage to get all the keys, but they leave Charles behind. In a car, Hoffman calls Erickson to allude him to the fact that Strom could be the Saw accomplice, and when he checks the files are missing, he begins to become more receptive. In the next room, they can only open the 5 locks if they take 5 shots at the same time in the bath. Luba wants to use Malik, but Britt ends up killing her and then use her corpse for the 5 shocks. In the parking lot, Hoffman calls Erickson using Strom's phone. The plan works and Erickson requests a locator on Strom's phone, where Hoffman then plants in the monitoring room. They enter the next room, where they need to make enough blood to fill the jar. They realize that they should have been working together the entire time. All the keys were identical. The shocks could have been one for each person, and the pipes had enough room to fit everyone. They reveal that Malik burnt a building down for heroin, killing 8 people in the process. Britt was the mastermind. She wanted the plot of land as a real estate VP. The others helped cover it up some way. Strom follows Hoffman to his home, where he finds the tunnels from the first movie, entering a room to find a glass coffin. The only way out is inside the glass shards. At the trap game, they saw off their hands, filling the jar with blood. When Erickson arrives tracking Strom's phone, he finds Britt alive outside. He knocks him into the glass casket, but the rest of the tape recording continues to play, revealing that because Strom kept on pushing, he will die and everyone will think he is the Saw accomplice. The wall pushes onto him, crushing him into a red paste. Simone and Eddie wake up in a Saw trap. They are in there because they recklessly loaned people money, knowing they couldn't pay it back. Only one of them can survive, the only one that can donate more meat before the countdown ends. Simone chops off her arm, giving her the clear-cut win. Eddie dies from a screw going inside his brain. Hoffman is called to the scene, where he finds out Agent Lena Perez is still alive. They take a deal where they share full information with each other. Umbrella Health CEO William Easton is meeting with attorney Betty. He is being sued by the Harold Abbott family. In a flashback, it shows that he was the guy they refused healthcare because of an oral surgery he chose with a competitor. He ends up dying from a heart attack without medication, but he blames the dog pit for it. A group of 6 employees thirsting for his approval. Other employees are Addie, or Alan, and janitor Hank. The feds grow suspicious because the only time a serrated blade was used to cut the puzzle piece was when Seth died. In Jill's box, it is revealed that the envelopes for correlating Saw movies are in there. She gives 1 to 5 to Hoffman, which has a picture of Easton in it. Late at night, Easton sees a shadow and shoots him, but it was just the security. When a piggy grabs him and kidnaps him, he wakes up strapped to a machine. There are 4 explosive shackles on him, and he only has 1 hour to remove all of them before dying. In another cell, his family, Tara and Brent, wake up. In the same cell is a tub full of hydrofluoric acid connected to a switch with live or die on it. Next to him is Hank. He is there because he smokes. Their first game is to see who can survive the longest without breathing. Every time they take a breath, the clamp tightens until one person dies. Eventually, Hank is crushed crushed by the device. William is freed and unlocks his first shackle. Under it is a tattoo, revealing when he met John Kramer. His next trap is to pick between Addie and Alan. He picks Addie because she has a child, and he unlocks his second shackle with this. In another flashback, book writer Pamela came to give Jill a note. Shortly after, she was caught by Piggy and put into the cell next to the family. His next task is to help Debbie. She has 90 seconds before she is killed. He has to divert the pipes by taking scorching hot steam to the face and help guide Debbie through the tunnels, but she finds out the key is inside William's stomach. He fends her off just long enough until she dies. He gets a key and escapes to the last task. It contains the Dogpile team. He can choose to save only 1/3 of them because his insurance only accepts 1/3 of the people, giving him 2 chances to save 2 people. The first kill is Aaron. When it is Emily, he saves her because she mentions that she has kids. The next killed is Gina. She tries to lie about being pregnant. Then Dave, then Shelby is next, but William pierces his hand using his second safe on her. Lastly, Josh is killed. William gains his final key. Meanwhile, outside, Hoffman gets caught in because they are unjumbling the new Saw voice. He slits Erison's throat and turns off the light, using Sachi as a human shield. He kills Perez and returns to burn the place down. He drives to the warehouse, where earlier Jill left a note that Pamela gave her. That note was about how Amanda was Cecil's boyfriend that encouraged him to go steal medicine for her fix. He used it to blackmail her into killing Lynn, forcing her to fail her tests and resulting in her death. Jill incapacitates him with an electric shock. Meanwhile, William barely makes it to the end just as the door closes, when War's open to reveal Pamela, who is his biological sister, and the family of Harold Abbott. They are given the chance to kill him or not. Tara can't bring herself to do it, but Brent does, melting his body with hydrofluoric acid. While this is happening, Jill places Hoffman in a reverse bear trap, and the kill switch that Brent pulled started the timer for the reverse bear trap. He escapes. Just as the bear trap is about to crush him, he puts it into metal bars, escaping and slipping out. Following shortly after the first film, Gordon crawls out. He escapes and survives by cauterizing his wound against a hot metal pipe. After Hoffman escaped, Jill went to the police station confessing that Hoffman was the accomplice to Jigsaw. The new detective, Matt Gibson, interrogates her. Meanwhile, Bobby Dagan is on a media tour, selling his story and book of how he survived a saw trap. At another trap scene, a neo-Nazi fails a saw trap, killing all 3 of his friends and himself. The police find Jill's fingerprints on the reverse bear trap. At a safe house, Gibson yells at her, but they receive a menacing DVD explaining that Hoffman will kill them if they don't hand over Jill. A bomb goes off at the site. They place her in jail, where Officer Roger watches over her. Bobby Deegan attends a recovery group for saw trap survivors, where Gordon sarcastically claps in the back after listening to his story. Afterwards, he is met by the Piggy. He wakes up in a trap, and Billy returns to tell him that he has been chosen for lying to the world. In a flashback, John warned Bobby to stop lying or something would happen. In another room, his wife watches, chained to the floor. He finds his publicist and his first task. It is to fish a hook and to get the key out of her stomach. They have to be quiet or the pipes will pierce her throat, stopping her from talking ever again. They are too slow and she dies, pierced by the pipes. His lawyer Susan is the next one. Strapped to a wheel, he fails to hold the spike long enough and she is pierced in the eyes. In the last room, his friend. They have to balance across the beams and he has to get him the key to free him, but they drop the key and he is killed for it. At the police station, they figure out the location of the trap game, busting in to find the bodies of all the victims and reaching the control room, where they finally reach Hoffman, but it is actually the neo-Nazi. When the bomb went off, he swapped bodies with him. A machine gun opens, killing Matt Gibson and 2 other cops. At the station, Hoffman kills the coroner and another one that enters the room. He continues on, killing another lawyer outside and Palmer, gaining access to the room. He kills another cop and shooting through the glass, killing Officer Roger. Meanwhile, Billy pops up to tell him to get the code to save his wife by taking out the 2 teeth in his mouth. He gets to the final room, but electric wires sit between him and his wife. His last task is to hoist himself up with the hooks that in his book he talks about how his pecs can support his body weight. He pierces his pecs and goes up to plug the cord, but his skin rips and the timer ends. He watches his wife burn to death alive. At the warehouse, Hoffman catches Jill and puts her in a saw trap, the original reverse bear trap, without any chance to escape, killing Jill.
Game over.
He goes back to his hideout to burn the place, walking off when he is jumped by 3 piggies, one of which is Gordon. In a flashback, he is revealed to be John's first accomplice. He nurtured him after finding him in the tunnels, even helping John set up some games, like sewing the guy's eye. He places Hoffman in the cell, removing any chance entirely of escaping.
Game over.
The last 2 Saw films are a 7-year gap. Jigsaw has a soft reboot to the universe. It does acknowledge that these first few films did occur, but it acts as a modernized version of it, with entirely separate films that you can watch on their own. The film starts with a car crash, where Edgar runs to a roof, where Detective Halloran and Keith pursue him. He presses a button and tells them a game has started. Somewhere else, a timer starts with 5 chains leading into a war. When Edgar dies from the bullets, the timer turns on the lights, waking up the Bucketheads. The people haven't accepted responsibility for what has happened in their lives. If they come clean, they can win and live. Any amount of blood sacrificed will set them free from the bucket. They slowly give up small amounts of blood, where the last guy who didn't react is left behind, while the others are pulled through. In the park, they find the body of the last person that didn't make it through. Removing the bucket, they find a decapitated man. Pathologists are Eleanor and Logan, an old friend of Keith, where they used to serve in Fallujah. When they spot a missing puzzle piece from Malcolm's neck, the USB retrieved has 4 left etched onto it, confirming that the audio is in fact John Kramer. In the trap game, they find a tape recorder that confirms that Carly stole a purse, which led to her death because Carly didn't help her during an asthma attack. She is injected with a poison, and one of the 3 syringes can save her. They are raised into the air, forcing her to choose, but she is too scared, so Ryan swings over and stabs her with all 3, releasing them from the trap. But Carly dies a slow and bloody death. They get a pin from the syringe and open the next door, where Ryan tries to go through a cheap cut that Jigsaw warns against, but in return he gets his leg trapped in wires under the floorboards. There is a lever that allows him to sever his leg. In another room, Anna and Mitch are trapped with grains filling the room. The only way to save them is to sever his leg and release the door, and saves them. During this, they find Carly's body with a jigsaw piece cut out. Halloran is suspicious of Eleanor because she was visiting a site called Jigsaw Rules. Logan tells Eleanor about this and the police being suspicious about her, and she accepts, taking him to her studio where she has recreations of all the saw traps, and Keith secretly takes photos. Meanwhile, at the trap game, Mitch plays a tape recording lifting him into the air. The motorbike that he sold killed John's nephew. Even though he knew the motorbike wasn't new and the brake was broken, he sold it as if it was. Now that motorbike is powering the spiral for him. Anna momentarily stops the bike with a rod, but it turns back on, killing Mitch. In the hospital, Edgar is kidnapped. They dig up Kramer's casket to see if he really is alive, finding Edgar's body inside with a jigsaw piece cut out from his face. With the photos of Eleanor's studio, they swat Eleanor's place, finding the body of Mitch. He gives Logan a visit to cuff him. He convinces him that Halloran is at fault for everything, with him at the start shooting Edgar. They decide to investigate the bullet wound and find that it was from Halloran's gun. Logan heads home, where Eleanor tells him she knows the location of the game, to which they drive to it and are tailed by Halloran. Meanwhile, Anna breaks a door and Piggy knocks her out. They are put into the last game, where Kramer tells them to confess. Ryan, as a drunk teen, caused the death of 3 guys during a drunken mishap. Anna was angry with her child screaming, so she suffocated it. In a dark turn, her husband went to prison for it, and he later committed suicide for this. They are left with a shotgun shell and a shotgun.
Use your key to freedom.
where Anna reaches for it and shoots him, but it backfires and kills her, with the keys inside now destroyed. Ryan is left to rot. In real time, they arrive at the barn where all the games have been taking place, but Halloran stops them. Eleanor makes a break for it, running away. They are both knocked out by the piggy. Lasers around them to make them confess for what they have done. Logan was the medical student that accidentally swapped the names of John Kramer and misdiagnosed him without brain cancer, leaving him with months without the diagnosis, but it is too slow and he dies for it. Halloran confesses to police homicides and letting people go, to which he is freed, but Logan wakes up to show that he is the Saw accomplice. His lasers were just lights and blood capsules. He now is gonna frame Halloran with the audio confessions. He explains that 10 years ago there was a game played where he was the last guy that didn't react. Kramer saved him at the last moment, giving him a second chance. He made the same trap game several years later with only 3 people, Malcolm and another girl that looked like Carly, and the guy found in Eleanor's studio was a different guy. He wanted to kill Edgar because he killed Logan's wife years ago. He sniped Edgar and during the autopsy swapped the bullets for Halloran's gun, using previous John Kramer tape recordings to recreate the voice and injecting blood under their nails. Eleanor is going to tell people of what happened. He is revealed to be working for John before Hoffman or Amanda and Gordon. The lasers kill Halloran, splitting his head into 8.
I speak for the dead.
The movie starts in a carnival when Detective Boswick is vacationing and follows a man that stole a woman's purse. Following him into a tunnel, a piggy catches him, waking up in a tongue trap. When the piggy comes back onto the TV to tell him that he is a crooked cop, he can either drop and the vice will rip out his tongue, or he can stay still and the train will kill him. He is too slow to react and is hit by the train. Detective Zeke Banks works undercover to help bust criminals. Among the police, he is an outcast for turning in a crooked cop. All the others hate him, calling him a rat. His Lieutenant Garza assigns him a new partner, William Sneck, which he appreciates because Banks' father was the reason he wanted to join the force. They get onto the scene and don't realize the corpse is a cop until they get a USB and it shows a spiral on the wall, recognizing it from the Saw ammo, and a voice telling them that they want to help Zeke clean up the police station. They find the spiral and another person with Boswick's police badge. Zeke is angry because he was Boswick's friend, not knowing he was corrupt and lied on the stand. He returns home where he talks to his father Marcus about the Saw copycat. In a flashback, he remembers turning in his corrupt partner, Dudley. He had killed a guy. A cop named Fitch re-watches the footage at the carnival, recognizing the thief as a local drug addict named Benny. He goes to an abandoned building where Benny usually sleeps. When he tries to wake him up, a piggy grabs him. He wakes up in a trap where his fingers are connected to an engine and a contraption around his face. He is there because he once shot a man in cold blood just for flipping him off. His dilemma is that he can either bite down and rip off all his fingers and escape, or he can wait until the water fills and he dies from the electric shock. He bites down but stops for a breath of air when it becomes too late and he dies from the shock. Zeke finds another USB. He plugs it in to find a spiral and Mr. Snuggles, the replacement for Billy the puppet. They recognize the location and head to it, finding a box full of fingers and Fitch's badge. In a flashback, Zeke was in trouble and called for help, but Fitch chose to ignore it, leaving Zeke with a bullet and at the time Captain Marcus beating him for it. They followed the Benny lead and dress up as potential buyers. They stormed the building and slammed the dealer into a glass table, torturing him to find out that Benny hasn't been around for a while. He meets up with Dudley, where in a flashback he reveals that he did it because the guy was the witness to another corrupt cop, so he killed him, apologizing for what he did, and he knew it was wrong. Another night where Marcus is gone. They receive another package with Mr. Snuggles wrapped in human skin, more noticeably Schneck's skin. They find another clue that leads them to a butcher shop where they find a skinless body addressing Schneck. Garza gets a text from Marcus's phone to check out the evidence locker where she is gassed and a piggy appears. She is there because she allowed too much police corruption to go unpunished. Now she can either paralyze herself by breaking her own spinal cord or suffocate from the wax. She struggles, but when Zeke finds her, she is gone. on. When he tries to find out what is happening, a piggy appears. It continues following Marcus down tunnels where a piggy gets him. Zeke wakes up chained to a pipe where he easily escapes his cuffs to find his old partner Dudley chained to the roof next to him. A tape recorder tells Zeke that he can choose to save him or allow him to be punished for his murder. He tries to free him to no avail. He is too late and the glass shards spit out, killing him. He goes on to find that William is still alive. The skinned body used before was Benny, the drug addict. He joined the force to help get rid of the corrupt cops, and he was the child of the man Dudley murdered. Zeke agrees to help, but his final task is his father. In the next room, Marcus is slowly dripping with blood. He has one bullet in the chamber, with the choice of shooting William and letting his father bleed to death, or shooting the target, releasing his father, but also letting William live. Marcus was a really corrupt captain back in the day. William also called the SWAT on him. He opts to save his father, but when the SWAT breaks in, they cut a wire, arming Marcus with a gun. The SWAT gun him down, and they watch as William gets away. This is the end of the Saw marathon. Click another video if you liked it, and subscribe.